1 2 1 2, just making sure it's on me. Um, Hello and welcome back to the Ice Mac MMA podcast. Before we jump into any of the news that we've got, make sure that you hit like, you hit subscribe. We're on YouTube, we're on Spotify, we're on Apple Podcasts. A lot of people finding us on YouTube, not complaining by any means, but don't be afraid to show some love over there. Now, Alex, we had like a Christmas break essentially from this podcast. It's been 2 weeks, hasn't it?
It has been a while. You know what? I've missed you, man. I don't know if I don't know if I have ever said that before. It's crazy.
I about to say it when we get limited to just Twitter DMs for 2 weeks, it gets kind of desolate.
It does.
I forgot what you look like.
But you know what? It's gonna get real lively today because we had this week has been just a shitstorm. I don't even know. I don't know what the right word is to describe what the last couple of days have been like. Because I remember we were talking earlier this week. We're like, all right, like Tuesday, maybe we record. It's Thursday today, by the way, just so you guys know. Yeah. So we're like, Tuesday, should we record? Some things came up, so we ended up pushing it back until today. And honestly, thank God we did, because the last 48 hours have just been chaos.
Yeah, because we even tentatively scheduled for Wednesday, and then we're like, no, we should probably just hold off because like work stuff. And then I think like Wednesday, like 3 p.m., we were like trading Twitter DMs of just insane things breaking. So yeah, it was very fortunate play by us to just delay it by that little bit. But I think the biggest one of the bunch, no more USADA. Conor McGregor, well, there's three different prongs to this. Conor McGregor is back in the pool. USADA will no longer be partnered with the UFC starting January 1st. DFSI will replace USADA. I don't know anything about them personally, but do you see that Conor or USADA might be like in court over the Conor stuff?
Well, I don't know if it was about the Conor stuff? I saw that the there's like a statement that they made yesterday or Tuesday that was very aggressive towards the UFC, and it sounds like Dana and Hunter didn't take too kindly to that, and I think the UFC like demanded an apology for it. Like this is all happening today, but I know Dana went on the Pat McAfee show and said something about how it was like Bush League from USADA, this statement that they made. But I think that the UFC is like, they demanded an apology in like a legal setting.
So I believe the Conor aspect of that is that they like insinuated that he was on testosterone and things to recover from his surgery because and I don't remember it exactly in the statement, but from what I saw online, it said something about we do not give exemptions for testosterone use, like the paragraph after talking about Conor. So basically leaking his medical records and confirming something that a lot of us already knew, but you can't do that. No. It was all hearsay up until you went, oh, by the way, not pointing any fingers, but we don't let guys on the juice get exceptions. Like, I think we know what you're talking about, guy. So that's the part that I saw that could be legally liable. But yeah, the whole thing is just entirely just felt like a text message you would get from your ex-girlfriend. Like, just like, well, we were having these really constructive talks, and then all of a sudden you pulled away like you always do. It was just like, what are we? Listen, you're
ugly breakup.
Yeah, it was like, you don't have to blame the UFC. Just say that the relationship is ending and be done with it.
Yeah, it's crazy that it feels like the crux of this conflict is just Conor McGregor.
Yeah,
like if that doesn't give you a perspective at how much this dude stirs the drink in the MMA world, it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean,
crazy.
Yeah, if he doesn't have to re-enter the pool or whatever. Well, because didn't they, on the same day they announced Conor in the pool, announce that they were no longer going to be partners with the UFC?
it was very close. I don't remember if it was exactly. I think Connor may have been the day before, possibly. But it
Well,
was,
if it was Connor the day before, that's probably why they ended the relationship.
yeah,
Like, because
yeah,
if they're that angry about that statement, which by the way, Dana taking moral high ground on taking shots at people like preemptive, like let's calm down.
yeah.
But you do have to
Seriously, not to get too sidetracked here, but I saw you saw that the UFC is like allowing flags, like fighters to carry flags out in the octagon. And
yeah.
the funniest stuff was when Dana was like, if any of that offends you, like, you know, like F off or something like that.
Yeah,
I don't
but
know
he
what he
was the one
said
that banned
verbatim, but
it.
buddy, you're the one that banned the flags. Like, it's crazy.
That and this is not to make this podcast in any way, shape, or form political, but it was a very Trump move. That feels like
Oh yeah.
like banning something and being like, this is wrong. And then 2 weeks later, it's like, if you think this is wrong, you're a cupcake. You should get out of this. It's like, what are we doing?
I walk in the room, I say, wow, these
Hey, don't
people are so angry.
Shane Gillis will come for you. You better be careful. But yes, what
Shout
they'll
out
be
Shane.
replaced
Shout
with
out Shane.
Shane, dude, Matt and Shane's secret podcast. Go. I'm not gonna plug them because watch our stuff, but they're good. They're good and fun. So what USADA will be replaced by is DFSI. Like I mentioned, I don't know a whole lot about it, but I would imagine they're probably getting less money than USADA was, and they're probably going to be a little bit more flexible if the UFC is willing to move on with them.
Yeah, so I did a little bit of research on them, and from what I understand, they do sample collection with all of the major sports leagues in the US. So it's like it's a legit organization that is widely used by some of the biggest leagues in the country. I don't know what this means in terms of, are we going to see, the Brock Lesnar's and the TRT Vitor Belfort's coming back to the UFC or not. I don't know if that era will ever come back, just because this is uncharted territory now. The UFC has never been partnered with this specific organization. We know what the precedent was with USADA, but I mean, I'm hopeful that the standard remains the same, and we don't get guys who are juiced to the gills still fighting in an octagon. I mean, this is the most dangerous sport for an opponent, for someone facing a guy who's juiced up, because it's, hand-to-hand combat.
Yeah, you're
It's
at the
your strength
mercy.
against theirs. Yeah.
You're at the mercy of somebody who not only is advanced athletically based on things that are not supposed to be in your body at that level, and also somebody who typically is pretty temperamental and pretty unlevel headed, because there's a history of not really having patience and not really having composure because of what that does to your mental, and to what that just does to your body. So yeah, you're locking somebody in a cage with somebody who's already got a natural advantage, plus might not be as lenient to pull up when the ref tells them to, or to because let's say you said something mean to them in the press conference and they remember it. It's not sportsmanship, or it can divulge farther away from sportsmanship far quicker because of those things.
Yeah, and I mean, it's all chemicals going in your body. Like, roid rage is a real thing.
Yeah.
Like that, like it changes your behavior to like your very core. And so you could get into one of those zones, like when you're out there competing, like you are in a different headspace than you are on a day-to-day basis. And I feel like with that, the steroids could just, I mean, elevate that even further to being dangerous, even when, maybe during like a stoppage or something, or like, shots after the whistle, where it's just like you're so, like, you can't control it anymore.
Okay, yeah, and hopefully in 2023, I think anybody that's going to be sanctioned to perform things like that, um, they have to be pretty on top of their game. Um, and so I'm not terribly worried about the steroid situation coming back. But I am really shocked that the UFC almost didn't come up with an in-house program instead of joining on with an existing.
I think it's good that they didn't do an in-house program though, because then it's like, who is gonna hold you accountable? Because Dana runs the show,
Yeah.
and when Dana has made mistakes, there's no one around to hold him accountable. So at least it's nice to see that it's an independent company conducting these tests and stuff like that. And I'm with you too. I don't think that we'll go back to the 2000s in terms of the testing leniency, but it's going to be different, and we just don't know. We don't know what's going to happen with this new partnership.
No, and to be perfectly clear, I'm not saying they should have done it in-house. I'm just saying I'm surprised because Dana doesn't like his baby being messed with.
Yeah.
And so him coming out and being like, "Oh, we've got the UFC's anti-doping policy that will be I'm just shocked that didn't happen. All right, so
Yeah.
let's talk about all the other stuff that's happened. We've got a dramatic shift in 294 because Paulo Costa was supposed to fight Hamzat Chimaev. He is now out because he just had to have a second surgery on his arm. He had a surgery 5 weeks before the fight and was going to go, apparently,
Yeah.
but has to do another one. Kamaru Usman steps in. And
Yeah.
and Volkanovski.
That's one half of it. That's
Yeah.
one half.
And now we're also getting Volkanovski versus Makhachev because Oliveira, his whole face was cut open.
Yeah.
So drastic changes.
Insane. Two things that I want to say right here. One, not mad at Paulo or Charles.
Nope.
Because that was completely out of their control. Those were, I mean, Paulo tried to fight through it after having surgery, 3 weeks earlier. Like,
Yeah.
it clearly was against his will that he was not involved in this fight. And Charles, if you saw the picture of the cut above his eye, you knew. You just
his
knew.
his whole eyebrow was gone.
Yeah.
It was just replaced with bone and skin. Like he couldn't get in the cage.
Yeah. So that's just a part of the sport. The second thing that I wanted to say is props to Kamaru, Hamzat, Volk, and Islam for staying on the card and taking these fights. All four are gangsters.
Yes.
For sure.
So there's only one of those three guys that I think somehow came out looking worse in this whole ordeal, and that was Islam, because he's doing this weird thing with Volk. I don't know if it's like he truly does dislike him because like it is his toughest test or whatever it is, but where he was claiming that Volk only took the fight for money, and like it was a really weird claim because Volk's got money. Like he wants a second belt.
If you've seen him fight before, you know that like he's a dog. He's got that dog in him.
Yeah, he's not out here just trying to get a paycheck and being like, "Oh, I'll fight Islam Makhachev for a quick buck."
Yeah.
No, dude, you're the champion. You've got people wanting your belt no matter where you go. You just gotta deal with the fact that one of them might be better than you. And Volkanovski might just be.
I think it's just, I don't know. I think it's just the Dagestani mindset. Like those guys are so confident in themselves. I mean, it was the same way with Habib, obviously. Like those guys have yet the best of the best in that Dagestani wrestling Sambo discipline. No one's had an answer for him.
No.
So I think that's just Islam being confident and knowing that he beat Volk before, I think he thinks it was probably way more decisive than it actually was. But like
Well,
that's
decisive and that fight are not two things that coexist in my mind.
yeah, and I'm with you on that. But it's like that's just to me, that's just how those guys are. They are the most confident people in themselves in the sport. And you know what? You got to respect it. I don't agree with the assessment of it, but it's like he did win. He did
Yeah,
win the fight.
he did. I almost wore my Tennessee shirt. I just now noticed you're wearing a Michigan thing. I should have. But yeah, like overall, this card got better. I
Oh
don't.
yeah, I was
There's no
gonna say
arguing.
that's what I was gonna ask you at the beginning of this. Actually, is like, how do you feel now that these fights are in place? I am devastated that Paulo Costa and Charles Oliveira aren't fighting.
Yes.
I'm heartbroken about that. But in my gut, I had a feeling that both of them were gonna lose, and I was gonna be disappointed.
Not just your
Even
gut, buddy. Your
time of
brain was
extras.
telling you that as well.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, now I think both of these fights are probably toss ups, and we'll save the predictions for next week. But you add the short notice factor into this, and you add the fact that it's two of the greatest champions in the UFC's history now stepping in to take this main and co-main fights. Like it just got way more competitive to me.
There was one fight that I thought would be more entertaining than Charles versus Islam, but that got booked. And there were probably 5 or 6 fights I would have rather seen than Paulo versus Islam, or not Islam, but Hamzat. And Kamaru was one of them, obviously. I mean, Kamaru was number one. So we got 2 legit dream matches out of these injuries. So hopefully the 2 guys that had to pull out will be back soon. I wish nothing but a speedy recovery, but also the interest has definitely peaked for the 294 card. Quickly before we move on to this next portion of this whole saga, stepping outside of MMA a little bit, but kind of not. Have you been watching this Dennis Paul stuff?
Yeah, it's crazy. I saw that Logan was like leaking blood at this press conference today. I saw
Yeah.
Helwani was he the moderator or something?
Yeah, I think so. But yeah, Dennis hit him with a microphone. Dennis,
I'll tell you what I
Good.
saw that. I saw that. Well, I guess Logan threw it at him first, and then
He threw a
Dennis threw it
water
back.
bottle at his leg, and Dennis like Gronk spiked it into his forehead.
Okay.
Yeah,
But the other thing I saw on Twitter today that I thought was really funny was Logan, like, he's been calling Dennis a predator, and he
yeah.
brought Chris Hansen out. Chris Hansen comes out and tells Dylan Dennis, "Why don't you take a seat?" That had me geeking. That was pretty funny.
Yes,
And
that was.
I usually am a huge hater on these like influencer, like, bullshit, like whatever fights, but like
Yeah,
you
I
gotta
don't.
give credit.
I'm not going to take him for anything more than rough and rowdy with a better budget. But yeah, that's an ultimate burn. That's very good. Did you see the weigh-in after that throw?
No.
Dennis did a weigh-in and stare down with Platinum Mike Perry because they're afraid that
No
Logan
way.
Paul might not be able to fight with that cut.
Well, I saw Logan tweet, or I saw something on Twitter saying Logan was like, "All right, I'm still fighting." But holy shit, I would love to see Mike Perry beat up on Dylan Dennis. That would be awesome.
Dude, I would so much rather Logan Paul can't go just so that we can watch Dylan Dennis get just destroyed.
Yeah.
I
The
I
the
don't
thing keep going, keep going. I'll talk after.
my okay, so I don't like Dylan Dennis. But it's not because of this Nina saga with Logan Paul's fiance or anything like that. It's because he doesn't show up. He gets into parking lot fights and gets rocked by Joe Blow. and then skips town whenever it's his time to show up. He probably won't even be at that fight. We're this close to it. I mean, the only thing he ever adopted from Conor McGregor was his absentee. Um, it's I can't stand snake oil salesman. It's same thing with Conor now. He is such a he's like those emails you see where it's like, oh, you forgot to pay your PayPal bill. That's $700. You can email me at, whatever. It's like, yeah, I know this is very clearly fake and there's nothing of substance to this. Please get it away from me because I don't care. That's what Danis is to me. So if he does manage to get into the ring, on Saturday or whenever it is, I would so much rather it be against Platinum Mike Perry, because Platinum Mike Perry we might never hear from Danis again.
I mean, he might not leave that cage alive.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
listen, Danis is just like a meme for MMA fans. Like they know not to take him seriously. Like unless you're new to combat sports and like haven't been watching for very long, you know that Dylan Danis is a joke by combat sports standards. So I don't like him. I don't like either guy. Mike Perry being in it on either side makes it more interesting for me, because then it's just a guy that I like, wanting to see him beat the piss out of a guy I don't like. So either way.
Do you know how absurd it is that Platinum Mike Perry is the most likable fighter of this collection?
Well, we've always been big Mike Perry guys. So, I stand, we've always loved Mike Perry.
Mike Perry, from a pure entertainment standpoint, not advising anything that he says, is very good. He's a very entertaining person, but he's also a white boy that says the N-word. And like, almost, didn't he punch out an old guy? No, he got in a screaming match with an old guy at a restaurant.
That sounds like Conor McGregor.
So Conor punched out the old guy in a bar. Mike Perry was screaming the N-word at some random old white dude at a restaurant.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. What? It was a CTE flare, I'm sure, but
that's crazy.
Yeah, there's video of it. I'll try to find it and send it to you when we're done recording. But but that still, he's, even with those facts, he's still the most likable person in this fight.
Oh yeah.
Like, and it's not even with zero hesitation.
But like, part of what makes Mike Perry like likable as well is his reputation amongst other MMA fighters too.
Yes.
It's not like, and especially, with the racial stuff, the black fighters, point to Tyron Woodley especially, who kind of egged him on about it too.
Yeah.
I know that instance. I didn't know about the restaurant, but I know Tyron Woodley egged him on about it and got him going. But that,
him firing his cornerman and having his girlfriend be his corner person, that's another thing.
Yeah.
He's insane, and people know that, but that's kind of endearing in a way. But yeah, doesn't Chris Curtis have a pretty solid relationship with him too?
Chris Curtis is boys with Strickland.
Okay.
Who's
different,
another problematic white boy.
Yes.
But
yeah. Who, by the way, has a lot of thoughts.
Still can't believe that. That's
and
crazy.
Also has a lot of thoughts on Israel.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That's, I don't want to open a can of worms on that, but listen, innocent people dying should never be happening. And for both sides, just want to leave it at that.
Yes. War is bad. Period.
I come from a Jewish family, so it's it hits certainly a little different, but it's there are people on both sides who are wrong, and there are people on both sides who have been senselessly killed, and it should not be happening. So it's just, you gotta pray for all the innocent people who are involved out there. Don't want to dwell too much on that. I know Strickland had his little rant he says a lot of crazy things. But
Yes.
where is I going with this? Oh yeah, Mike Perry, also Flint, Michigan.
Oh, that
Born and
explains
raised.
it.
Yeah,
It's because he
yeah,
was drinking that water growing up. That's why his brain works the way it does.
yeah.
Um,
So, wow, that's messed up. That's messed up.
yeah, well, oh well. So the last thing, and we can skip the Dana White Spear saga. He talks a lot about where he wants to have fights. Gamrot is livid over this whole situation because he was supposed to be the backup for Islam versus Charles, and they remove him from that spot, give it to Volk, and now he's just left on an island after having to do camp and all that good stuff with nothing.
Yeah, you and I had a little bit of a debate over, whether I guess the morality of it. I almost is what it feels like, and it feels like you kind of took the side of Gamrot where it's like, well, why would you go through a camp and be the backup fighter, make the weight if when the time comes to have a backup fighter, you're passed up on the opportunity. I get it. I understand where you're coming from on that. To me, like if you're confirmed as a backup, it's if a guy doesn't make weight or there's something or something happens, days before the fight. But if the UFC has enough time in between a fighter pulling out and the fight to start, they had what, 2 weeks ish, give or take.
No.
Like to me, it's okay because especially with what they put together too. Like they put together two of the best fights we'll see this year. To me, I hope at least.
Yes, on paper.
Yeah. So that's how I feel.
My big thing there was more or less just I don't like that if you're going to have a backup fighter that you don't want them in the belt fight. Like that's my thing because they don't want Gamrot in the belt fight. They don't. He's not champion quality right now, and he's not coming off of a win that really elevated him into the title scene. Why have him do that? I'm sure Volk would have happily been the backup. Like,
yeah,
I with how he approaches the fight game, I don't think he would ask any questions if they asked him, "Hey, would you possibly just make weight for this?" I'm sure he'd have been perfectly fine with it. So that's the part that gets me. I understand 100% how Mateusz is feeling about it. I would not be happy about it either. But yeah, it doesn't feel like a quality setup. I almost wish they would start like if you have a championship backup fighter, have another backup fighter in the same weight class in a different fight. And if the backups aren't needed, just put them against each other. So that way you're not wasting everybody's time.
Yeah.
But that's my 2 cents on it. Quickly, we've got 4 different fights that we want to recap. We don't have to spend much time on Bobby Green because he didn't spend much time on Grant Dawson. He is evil for that.
Who saw that coming?
No, not us.
I didn't.
We talked about recording that week, and we were like, well, none of these all feel like a bunch of mentions because none of these guys are going to win. And then Bobby Green goes and does it.
Yeah, speechless. I'm speechless. If we did pick that fight, I was gonna pick Dawson.
Obviously.
I hand up, like I was totally gonna pick Dawson. So
I wouldn't have thought twice about it. I would have wrote one line of being like, "LOL, Dawson's winning this, whatever," and that'd have been that. But yeah, Bobby Green coming out and doing that. He is that type of fighter to be able to do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, totally. I saw some jokes about Bobby Green like becoming or not becoming, but some relation between Bobby Green and Michael Johnson.
Oh,
because it's just like that's like what they're doing now. Or Michael Johnson beat Dustin Poirier.
Yeah,
like people forget that. That's crazy.
Yeah, just accidentally, just landing in these crazy spots to be able to pull it off. Yeah, so Bobby Green gets a big jump up the card, and then we've got 3 Bellator fights. To be perfectly honest, I didn't get to see, I saw highlights for the most part on these fights. The easy, quick answer here for the first one, the Nurmagomedov bloodline is insane.
I mean, dude, once Islam's done, Usman's going straight to the top. And I've already seen some stuff about him potentially going over to the UFC. I think Bellator is folding after this, right?
I
Isn't
believe
Bellator
so.
and PFL like merging?
Yeah.
Like I'm pretty sure this was like the grand finale for Bellator. And it was a huge card. Three
So
title fights. Awesome.
so it was Bellator 300. They have
Yeah.
301 coming up at the like middle of November, I think. It's next week. It's next Thursday. Um, and then they don't have anything booked after that, I don't think.
Okay. Huh.
So then I would assume the merge comes together. I don't know why you don't just end it on 300, but they do
Yeah.
have like AJ McKee's fighting, Patricio's brother, Sergio Pettis is fighting. Like they're gonna have more names. It
Oh,
almost
that's a
feels
good
like a
card. That's a good card. I'll watch that again too. I didn't even know that was happening.
yeah. It's almost like a double feature. It feels like
Yeah.
if they split 300 into two pieces.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, Usman going out there and just doing what Nurmagomedovs do.
Yeah. I just get ready. Get ready. You think the Dagestani reign will end after Islam? You are mistaken because Usman's coming.
Yeah. Yeah,
Coming.
it is far from over. Okay, so then the next one we got, very short fight, Chris Cyborg versus Katsin Zingano. I don't know what just happened there. Don't ask questions. But so dude, how's Chris Cyborg still able to do this?
She's always been that good. She just happened to fight Amanda Nunes. She happened to fight the one fighter probably who it was better than her at the time.
Well, and I'm not even saying she wasn't good or whatever. I'm just saying like she's 38. Like typically
No,
women's fighters start to hit the decline earlier than men's fighters, and 38's old for a man fighter.
yeah,
So her still being able to put people away like this in the first round, that's wildly impressive.
yeah, dude, she's the cyborg. She is. People refuse to fight her.
Yeah.
Didn't GDR refuse to fight Cyborg?
Yeah.
Like
But she claimed that was because of PEDs, didn't she?
I don't remember. I know GDR refused to fight her. I don't remember if it was because of PEDs or not, but she has been one of, if not the most feared female fighter her entire career because of just how not even like technically good she is, but how she can just devastate you with like the punching power from she might have the best punching power of any female fighter in history. I don't think that's an overstatement.
No, I don't, and I don't even think that's like a hot take.
No.
So here's a quote from GDR. Cyborg is a known and proven cheater. Even after so much scrutiny has been put on Cyborg, she still managed to pop for something and will always be a person of suspicion who is trying to beat the system rather than just conforming to the rules. So yeah, essentially being like you juiced once, like, or whatever. Like I'm not gonna fight you. But regardless, I don't think she's on it anymore, and she's still capable of doing some craziness.
Wasn't that for a title defense though? Wasn't that for GDR defending her title?
GDR got stripped because of that, because
Exactly.
Cyborg was supposed to fight Megan Anderson for it.
That's what I'm saying is like, yeah, all right. Even if you think that they're juicing, you got to go out and defend your belt. If
Yeah.
that's who they put you up against, and this was very early on in the featherweight division, RIP, you won't be missed.
No.
But yeah, like you when the class is just getting established like that, you got to defend your title. Like, so I totally think it just had something to do with how fearsome Chris Cyborg is.
Last fight we're going to talk about from the Bellator card is Alimale McFarland's fight and subsequent injury that happened in it. It just sucks to see any fight in that way, and especially as deep as that fight had already gone. That kick just something went wrong there. Hopefully, I haven't seen anything on what that injury might be, but just hopefully she's back in that octagon before long, and in that merger situation with Bellator and PFL.
Yeah, she will. It's, but it's still, you also got to give Liz Carmouche her flowers too.
Oh yeah.
Like she fought a great fight, and and a lot of it is just conditioning of the legs. And I know freak accidents happen here and there, but like, MMA fighters condition their lower body and their bones to deliver and take those kinds of hits. So, I mean, of course, I'm hoping for a speedy recovery for McFarland rather. But Liz Carmouche has been doing it for a while, man. And once she moved over to Bellator and took over as the flyweight champ, she no one's been able to beat her yet.
No,
So,
she's gotten through there unscathed, or relatively speaking. And yeah, like I mean, we've seen videos of Tony Ferguson kicking the bamboo and like metal poles and stuff because
yeah.
that's part of the job. So maybe there wasn't, enough proper conditioning done in that, in that department. But yeah, it looked funky all the way around. And the way McFarland reacted, it looked more like injury than from the kick, but obviously the injury came from the kick. But just overall, it just seemed very disjointed, and hopefully it doesn't keep her out for too long.
All right, now we'll get into our fight night this weekend, which is pretty good, all things considered. We're gonna pick 5 fights out of the 6 fight main card, so that we'll take those. We've had some where finding 3 has been a struggle.
Dude, well, we were just going to congeal the past 2 cards, or past 3 cards really, into the recaps, and there was going to be like 5 or 6 total fights until all this news broke, and we decided, oh, we don't really even have to talk about these. What I will say about this upcoming card, this card feels like it's for the hardcores.
Yeah.
I don't know how many people are going to be drawn in. I'm not even particularly drawn in by the main event, but the 4 cards prior to, or the 4 fights prior to that, are going to be very fun viewing for the people that tune in.
Yeah, and we've got a really good one as the opener. 2 young guys who are, have very bright futures in the sport. Christian Rodriguez, you might remember from him fighting Raul Rosas and beating him pretty handily. That's nothing against Rosas. That was Rodriguez just looking damn good.
Yeah.
And Cameron Simon comes from the same gym as Dricus in South Africa, 9-0, also looked very good. And it should be a striking battle, I imagine.
Yeah.
Like
my big thing here is it feels like they're trying to get C-Rod to lose to an up and comer, because like they're not after he beats Raul, because they very clearly wanted Raul to win that fight. You would think they would be like, oh, C-Rod, maybe he has some upwards mobility potential. Why don't we set him up kind of on a path to building, kind of like what they did with JDM or any of those guys, as opposed to just putting him against prospects. Simon, better prospect than Raul is to me, and a tougher fight, but also like it's so high stakes because both these guys could legitimately be really quality dudes in the future. So I don't think that their stock is all that high on C-Rod, although it should be. But I'm right there with you. I think the striking battle is going to be all that we talk about from this. I don't see this going to the ground very much at all.
Yeah, I really think that it'll be this fight is kind of to decide who they end up putting more stock in, because both guys are off to great starts in their respective careers. They've both shown that they're very talented. Christian Rodriguez showed that he can deal with, even though he's not known as a wrestler, he can deal with you on the ground and have success. Simon, I don't even know if he's been in any trouble on the mat so far, at least in the UFC fights of his I've watched. But at the same time, also, the loser of this fight, still could and probably will go on to have a very successful career. So this, to me, is just more in terms of, okay, who between the 2 of them is going to get fast tracked, and who are they going to ease along for the
Yeah.
foreseeable future.
Yeah, I mean, this could just be siblings fighting to be, their parents' favorite, essentially. And very well could be. I just don't think they like C-Rod that much because I still think in their eyes that they're viewing him as a guy that looks good on the resume, but isn't up to the snuff. Like he wasn't supposed to be against Raul, and he's not supposed to be against Simon. That said, I think C-Rod's good enough to make this a decision, but I do think Simon's hands are better. I do think that he is just so gifted as a striker. So I am going to lean towards Cameron Simon.
I'm gonna go C-Rod here. I think Simon's been through it a little bit in a couple of his fights. And C-Rod has a loss on his record too. So obviously neither of them they're still developing their games a lot. C-Rod's older, which I like more. Just physically, he's going to be more developed. Because he's like 24 or 25. I think Simon's 21 or 22.
Something like
Um,
that.
and like I said earlier, I like what I saw from C-Rod. If somehow this fight gets to the ground, and he might be the one to take it there, he could be. So I just like that what he's got going for him in terms of physical development, and Simon's just a young guy, and this will, if he loses, it'll be good for him, and I don't think it's gonna change his career trajectory at all. But at this stage, I like C-Rod.
And that's totally fair. That was probably my second most toss up of a fight on this. And I think that it would be first if I just didn't like Edson versus young strikers. You know what I mean? So this next one has the most fun fighter on the card.
Yes, and he's finally moved up to middleweight after the weight miss debacle with Wonder Boy. That would have been an awesome fight, though. I'm still kind of sick it didn't happen.
I don't know.
But
Wonder Boy needs to just pack on the pounds for that. But yeah, we do get Andre Petrowski versus Michel Pereira. So I don't know how much sense this is going to make, but stick with me. I think Petrowski is the better fighter. But I think Michel is one of the hardest guys to face in the UFC. So I don't know that Petrowski is to the level that it requires to beat a guy that's as difficult to go toe-to-toe with as Pereira.
Well, yeah, I mean, Pereira's he's another one of those guys who throws strikes from weird angles, the Yuri Wonder Boy esque. I don't want to compare him to either of those two, but
just being able to off platform it and backflipping and dropping his heels into your chest. And
just using his athleticism to his advantage. Petrowski, very much a wrestler. And he's had he's shown that he's got some pop in his hands, but God, unless this fight goes to the ground, it's going to be a long night for Petrowski. I'm slightly concerned about Pereira going up to 185 because it's just bigger boys, stronger guys. So it could happen where Petrowski just gets a hold of him and it doesn't let go. I think that's his path to victory, but God, Pereira just feels so much more talented and so much more dynamic that I can't pick against him.
Well, and the problem with trying to take him down is you got to get a hold of him first.
Yeah.
How are you supposed to get hold of him? Anytime you get close to him, he somersaults over your head and slaps you on the back of the neck on the way. Like he's a freak athletically, and that's just such a difficult thing to deal with. So I'm right there with you. I think Michel takes this win, welcomes himself to 185 quite nicely, and might even earn himself a little ranking.
I would caution people that this will be closer than I think many think, because I'm pretty sure Pereira is a pretty heavy favorite in this.
Oh, but I don't like that.
But I think with the move up in weight against a wrestler, it could get a little dicey for him. But I'm picking him. So what? I guess my words hold very little value there. But I think it'll be close.
I think the point is we're picking it, but we wouldn't take the money line.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that's the confidence level in this fight. A
Mhm.
lot of not very confident fights, by the way.
Yeah. This next one, I mean, dude,
See, this one is the most confident for me on this card.
really,
Yeah.
this is probably my fight of the night pick for the card. Jonathan Martinez and Adrian Yanez. We can't
Mhm.
call him Yanez anymore. I saw on Twitter. It's Yanez is how it's
Yanez.
pronounced. So
Well, whatever his last name is, I think his hands are a little bit better, and I anticipate this will probably be primarily striking.
yeah,
Um, Adrian is just so good. Like he's he is championship caliber to me. I think he very well could be a champion in the future. I don't know that I think the same about Jonathan Martinez.
I don't know. I don't know if Yanez has the championship. I don't know if he has the juice for it. I don't think you're giving Martinez enough credit, dude. He's won some big fights. He's finished a lot of fights. 10 of his 18 are by finish, 8 KOs, 2 subs. He's a tough out, and yes, I'm gonna go with Yanez as well. But I think this fight's close. I think it's closer than you're giving Martinez credit for here. I expect it to be a battle. That's why I said this is probably my fight of the night candidate. But
And
Yanez has the pop.
I'm
He's
not
got
I'm not saying this is Potiera versus Olberg or anything. Like this is a close fight objectively. But compared to what else we have here, it's the closest fight. Or not the closest, it's the most far away fight on this card for me personally.
see. I disagree.
Who would you
I
have
just
as your farthest away fight?
I think. I mean, I I think the next one, the co-main, won't be close. Honestly,
I don't see, but my thing is like I think Araujo wins, but she's on a nasty slide, and I don't know how her mental game is there. And we can go ahead and pivot into that because I really
yeah,
don't have much more to add to Martinez versus Yanez. But
yeah.
yeah,
Everything you said about Yanez, I agree with. I think he's gonna win.
yeah.
Yeah,
But yeah, Jennifer Maia, Vivian Araujo, whenever a fighter is coming off losses like that, and now granted it's to the upper echelon of the division, but you don't know how their mentals hold up because this is the first real tough spot that Araujo's been in, at least in the UFC, where you don't really know how high up she's going to be able to get. So that scares me. And that brings that closer for me than Yanez Martinez.
I guess. I mean, here's the deal with this fight: is both of these women have fairly similar game, similar background. BJJ. Maia, to me, it's just I know she won the big fight against Casey O'Neill,
Mhm.
but I my takeaway from that was not holy shit, Jennifer Maia is really good. It's okay, maybe Casey O'Neill isn't as good as we initially thought she was. You know,
Yeah.
like Jennifer Maia has like it's just she's past her peak to me. And I think Araujo is actually older than her, but fight wise, I'm gonna have to double check that.
Yeah, you have to go by fight age, and
Yeah,
Araujo is a fair bit behind Maya as far as tests and experience. Um,
yeah,
have you got the ages up yet, or you want me to keep
yeah.
going?
So Araujo's 36, Maya's 35.
Yeah,
Um, but I don't know. I just think Araujo has more to offer on the feet too, and I think that'll probably be the deciding factor in this fight because both of these women are kind of grapple first game plans for the most part. Maya, it's not dynamic
no,
as a striker at all.
no, it's a
Very
one-way street.
volume. Araujo is at least someone who can wobble you and put you in serious danger. I don't think Maya has it in her, and I think Araujo cruises, honestly.
I see. I don't agree with cruises. I do think that most of this fight will probably be on the ground just because um that's the only way Maya wins. And so even if she's not doing great on the ground, I figure she probably has to keep it there just on the off chance she can figure it out. Um Arujo is not an elite level, but she's far closer to it than Maya is. And so I'm also going with Vivian. I'm going by decision. Um, I just it almost kind of feels like a trap fight to me, man. Like this feels like a weird spot where they're like, "Oh, we're going to give her a bounce back," but she realizes it's a bounce back, and that pressure translates to if I don't win this, this is not going to be good. Um, and then that can create some chaos. That's what's happening in my brain.
Hey man, every round starts on the feet,
It
and
does.
that's important here because
Yeah.
because Arujo has the game to match what Maya's bringing her on the ground. So that's how I see it. You know,
Yeah, and I
I
get
could
it.
be way off. Could be way off.
Well,
But
we agree on the same person. Like we still have it's the exact same situation as Martinez Yanez. Like
yeah,
you're separating it a little bit more. I'm saying be careful now, but we ultimately are picking the same people.
yeah.
So it's just adjusting the confidence meter is all it is. And then this final one again, not high on the confidence meter. I hinted at it earlier: Sadiq Yusuf versus Edson Barboza. Um, Edson main eventing a fight night card in 2023 is incredible, and I don't think I mean in a good way. Honestly, even though I'm saying that I feel pretty confident that Yanez is going to win that fight, or as confident as I'm getting on this card, that should have been the main.
Oh yeah, 100%. Because
Like,
those are two guys on the rise.
right. And it's going to be the most entertaining fight.
Yeah. And I guess Yusuf technically is on the rise too. But like when you have two guys in the same, kind of age range and they're both ranked, I'm pretty sure Martinez is ranked. Um, that makes a lot more sense to me. But at the same time, Edson Barboza is very recognizable name, legend of the sport, obviously. Pretty much patented leg attacks. So like that's kind of a big deal. Um, but and I picked him last time against Billy Q. I don't know what it is, man. I'm going with Barboza again. I think I I
Mm.
don't know. I don't know why, but
Oh,
something
dude.
about him.
So again, feels like this is kind of an elevation fight. They want to put Sadiq over the top and not force Edson to defend takedowns because they almost want to. They've seen how successful the Wonder Boy stuff has been and how much fans are into that, and so they're like, okay, well, we'll do what we're doing with Wonder Boy. Um, it makes me so uncomfortable, like I said earlier, when Edson Barbosa is going up against a young striker because Edson's been doing this a little bit longer than anybody else has in that regard, and um, he's got a few more tricks up his sleeve. But here's the thing: Sadiq is better than Billy Q. He is. I like
Is
Billy a lot, but I think Sadiq is better.
I mean, he probably is.
I
He
also think he's going to
probably
be more creative in his strategy as opposed to Billy basically handing Edson the manuscript on how to knock him out.
Yeah, it's different game plans though because Billy Q is known for if you don't put him out in round one, you're gonna have trouble the last two rounds. And Edson put him out in round one, so we did get to see, Billy the classic Billy Q fight where he goes and possibly wins 2 and 3. Obviously, we'll never know, but like I don't know. I know Edson has had some issues in terms of his chin himself, and that does concern me against Yusuf. I do think Yusuf is good. I I just don't know. I feel like he hasn't fought anyone, he hasn't beaten anyone that to me is like that gives me the confidence that they can go out and beat Edson Barboza. Like Edson, Shane Burgos was a good win for him. That wasn't too long ago. Alex Caceres is probably the best win that Sadiq has. And Caceres is good. Caceres is a tough matchup, but God, he's just like, it doesn't move the needle for me. I don't know.
And dude, I get it, but like I truly believe Billy Q only won that fight because he was forecasting it so hard that he would just go up top with the right and come down with the left to the body. And so eventually a guy like Edson's going to be like, oh, if you're just going to keep doing that, I'm just going to let my hand fly whenever you get done with that throw up top. So that's not going to be an issue with Sadiq, in my opinion. And it all comes together in a way that I do not enjoy for Edson, even though I don't like the fact that I'm picking against him either.
Yeah, this one I think it is close. It's just, yeah, I don't know. I think Edson, just with the experience, it's not like Sadiq Yusuf is a world beating talent that's coming up. Like, I'm not super inspired by him. I think Edson has enough tricks up his sleeve. He has enough different ways to attack you than Yusuf does, and I think that'll carry him to a win.
Yeah, fair enough. But so we have what, two difference? We had the first and the last one.
Yep.
So that ought to be interesting. I think we are in agreement that that last fight is the hardest one to predict.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That
Right.
one I was thinking about, a half hour before we went on.
Yeah. Whereas all
Like,
the rest of these, after I said them, I kind of forgot them, even though I
yeah,
do think they're close.
yeah,
Um, but all right, easy enough. That's simple. I think we're out of stuff to hit on for this week.
yeah. A lot of ground to cover, but we got there. We'll be back next week for the revamped 294 card. Make sure you like and subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and we'll see you next week. That's all I got. You got anything?
Nope, I'm good. I'll see you next time.